Milla Clarke, star of My 600lb Life, had one of the show's most challenging experiences. When she made an appearance in Season 4, she was dealing with a number of health issues. She had severe lymphedema, which made walking challenging for her. For years, she was dependent on her family. Their circumstances were further compounded by the fact that her spouse had other health problems. However, this gave Milla the motivation to eventually change her life. See her startling metamorphosis now by reading on. During her episode, Milla made impressive improvement in spite of her health problems. She no longer wanted her children to defend her and her spouse. As a result, she promptly lost 110 pounds by adhering to Dr. Now's rigorous eating plan. Additionally, the My 600lb Life celebrity received approval for bariatric surgery. She lost 43 additional pounds after having her lymphedema removed, which further improved her trip. At 477 pounds, Milla concluded her episode. By the end of her episode, she still had a lot to improve. However, she was full of optimism and a strong will to succeed. Recently, Milla Clarke posted pictures from her reunion with Dr. Now on Instagram. The My 600lb Life celebrity demonstrated her ability to maintain a healthy weight by flaunting her entire body in the picture. It's unknown if a special episode was the reason for their reunion. However, a lot of admirers are happy that Milla continued to communicate with Dr. Now. She hasn't disclosed her weight yet. However, she earlier said that she had been battling her demons and that she nearly relapsed into her junk food and candy addiction. It could possibly be the cause of her subsequent encounter with Dr. Now. Wow, how lovely. I adore the series in which I first encountered them. I adore them. Salutations from Mexico. Amazing. Milla is a love person and a role model. I am aware that he is pleased to see you still walking. One of his greatest success stories on his show is you. I am aware that he is pleased to see you moving forward with your trip and no longer confined to bed. I adore this for you. Where are they now? I hope to see you there. He must be really pleased with the active, fulfilling life you and your family are leading right now. I love seeing you happy. Additionally, Milla Clarke has been posting images and videos from her training sessions. The My 600lb Life celebrity posted a video of herself exercising indoors last week. She's working up a sweat on a gym bike. Additionally, Milla has been more mindful of her nutrition, creating nutritious dishes and disseminating them to her fans. Since her dramatic weight loss, Milla has also flourished as a mother and grandma. Dr. Nowzaradan's Houston office's fluorescent lights hummed a recognizable, clinical melody that served as the background music for many transformational trips. It was a tune that was woven into Milla Clarke's entire essence. She hadn't sat in this waiting room in years, and the scale hadn't displayed a figure that would have robbed her of her future. Now, when the door opened and a nurse shouted her name, Milla's heart pounded with a powerful mixture of appreciation and expectation rather than terror. Her experience on My 600lb Life had been a multifaceted fight. Milla had been essentially bedridden at her heaviest, her body a prison of extra weight. Even the easiest things were enormous obstacles. The world outside her house felt like a strange planet, bathing needed help, and going from room to room was a tiring experience. Her children were the only thing that kept her waning hope alive. Their love and unfailing support were her lifeline. However, the crushing weight of her physical limitations and the nagging concern that she wouldn't be there to see them grow up were not lessened by their love. With his characteristic no-nonsense manner, Dr. Now had given a harsh reality check in his initial evaluation. The path ahead was lengthy, difficult, and full with obstacles. Even if she had trouble believing in herself, Milla had detected a sincere desire to assist underneath the stern facade, a belief in her potential. The approach had included the rigorous diet, the taxing physical treatment, and the emotional rollercoaster of facing the habits that had brought her to this point. She recalled the early days, the excruciating hunger, and the frustration of not being able to do activities that others appeared to do with ease. At times, she felt like giving up, giving into the familiar routines, and burying her problems in food. However, she was constantly pulled back from the edge by the sight of her kids' faces and the vow she had made to both them and herself. Surgery to help her lose weight had been a turning point, but it wasn't a panacea. Her relationship with food had to change fundamentally, and she had to make a conscious effort to feed her body instead of punishing it. It was a lifestyle shift rather than a band-aid solution, as seen by the reduced amounts, the emphasis on veggies and lean protein, and the removal of processed junk and sugary beverages. First slowly, then in greater chunks, the weight had been removed. Every pound dropped was a triumph and a concrete indication of advancement. Losing weight gave me a newfound sense of independence. She could play with her kids, go farther, and stand for longer periods of time without feeling exhausted. The world opened up once more. Simple pleasures like as shopping for groceries or relaxing at a restaurant booth became treasured moments. However, there were difficulties along the way. After losing a lot of weight, the extra skin that remained served as a continual reminder of her previous difficulties. It affected her self-esteem and caused physical agony. Another big step was the choice to have skin removal surgery, which allowed her to finish changing physically and get rid of the final traces of who she used to be. Milla was overcome with emotion as she entered Dr. Now's examining room. A wave of recollections was evoked by the sight of the heavy-duty scale and the well-known antiseptic smell. In her mind's eye, she saw a reflection of the woman she had once been, overwhelmed, defeated, and trapped. However, she also saw the strong, resilient, and vibrant woman she had grown into. With a steady step and an inscrutable countenance, Dr. Now entered the room. In his palm, he clutched a chart that documented Milla's trip and served as evidence of her diligence and commitment. With a deep growl in his voice, he murmured, "Milla." He pointed to the balance. "Let's check in with you." With her pulse racing, Milla went onto the platform. The statistics wavered and eventually leveled off. There was a little widening of Dr. Now's eyes. On her chart, he wrote something down. "Amazing, Milla," he remarked, his tone tinged with adoration. "Very impressive." Although he did not disclose the precise figure, Milla was certain that it was far less than her previous weigh-in. It demonstrated her ongoing dedication to leading a healthy lifestyle. They proceeded to his office, which was furnished with anatomical models and medical literature. As she sat across from him, Milla had a wave of satisfaction. "Now, Milla, tell me about your life," Dr. Now asked. Milla's face brightened. "Dr. Now, it's entirely different. I am actually alive. There is so much more I can do. Every day, I go for walks. I go to the park to play with my kids. I don't feel self-conscious when I go shopping. Last weekend, I even went hiking." In contrast to her previous appointments, she talked with enthusiasm. Her voice was louder, and the brightness in her eyes was brighter. "And the surgeries to remove the skin?" Dr. Now asked. With her hand automatically reaching for her tummy, Milla remarked, "They made a huge difference. The recovery was difficult and the pain was excruciating, but it was well worth it. I feel lighter. I feel more at ease with myself." Dr. Now nodded, his eyes unwavering. "Milla, you've done the task. You've worked hard and given up something. Your commitment is what led to this change." Milla softened her voice and said, "Dr. Now, it wasn't easy. I wanted to give up a lot of the time. But I persevered because of your strong love and advice. And, of course, my kids. They served as my main source of inspiration." Motivation is crucial, Dr. Now concurred. However, consistency is essential. You've been reliable. You have transformed this into a way of life rather than merely a short-term diet. He reclined in his seat. "Milla, a lot of people pass through these doors. They want the quickest solution and the simplest route. However, real improvement necessitates a fundamental shift in perspective and a readiness to address the underlying problems that first caused the weight gain." Milla understood his meaning well. She had found solace in eating as a coping mechanism for emotional suffering and stress. Just as important as altering her eating habits had been learning how to cope with those emotions in a healthy way. "This process has taught me so much about myself," Milla remarked. "I've learned to listen to my body, be more mindful, and take care of myself from the inside out." Dr. Now took up her chart once again. "Milla, your health indicators are quite good. You have steady blood sugar, low cholesterol, and normal blood pressure. Your risk of weight-related health issues has considerably decreased. Milla was thrilled to hear this. Her health had been an ongoing cause of anxiety and a serious concern. Being aware that she had taken charge of her health was very empowering. Now, Milla, what are your objectives? Dr. Now inquired. Milla grinned. Of course, to keep up this healthy lifestyle, to keep exercising, to take care of my body, and to be the best mother I can be to my kids. I want to serve as an example for them, demonstrating to them that everything is achievable with perseverance and diligence. What about your connection to food? Dr. Now asked. Milla declared, it's healthier. Food no longer seems like an adversary to me. It's fuel to me. Treats are still something I occasionally enjoy, but only in moderation. I now know to pay attention to my body's hunger signals and to quit when I'm full. Dr. Now gave a nod of approval. That is an important step. Long-term success requires developing a positive connection with food. His eyes were attentive as he stopped. You know, Milla, many people have found inspiration in your story. Viewers of My 600lb Life witness your hardships and disappointments, but they also witness your tenacity and eventual success. You've demonstrated to them that, despite the seeming direness of the situation, you can take back your life. A lump appeared in Milla's throat. Numerous letters had been sent to her by individuals who had been moved by her narrative and who had found inspiration and hope in her path. It served as a sobering reminder of the influence her tenacity and vulnerability had on other people. Milla answered, I hope so, in an emotionally charged voice. Everything I've been through has been worthwhile if my story can assist even one person. After closing her chart, Dr. Now put it on his desk. Milla, you should feel very proud of yourself. You have triumphed over great obstacles with dignity and fortitude. You have changed not just your physical appearance but also your life. He got up from his seat, and Milla followed suit. He held out his hand, and Milla gave it a strong shake. She said, Thank you, Dr. Now, with sincere appreciation in her voice. I appreciate your support, encouragement, and belief in me throughout this journey. He said, You did the work, Milla. I only offered the resources and direction. You were the source of your power and resolve. Milla had a great feeling of success and closure as she left Dr. Now's office and returned to the waiting area. There were still plenty of individuals in the waiting area, each on their own path, their features marked with a mix of fear and optimism. Milla was aware of their hardships, anxieties, and aspirations. She recalled being in that very room, feeling unsure and overwhelmed. She was leaving as a new person now, not only physically, but also emotionally and intellectually. She had overcome her restrictions, battled her demons, and come out on top. Milla inhaled deeply as she stepped outside into the brilliant Houston sunshine. The air had a new feel to it, lighter and more colorful. A grin appeared on her face as she gazed up at the sky, which was a vast expanse of blue. Instead of being a sprint, her trip had become a marathon. There had been times of suffering, annoyance, and uncertainty. However, there had also been triumphant, joyful, and resolutely hopeful times. The lady who had been imprisoned by her own body, Milla Clark, was finally at liberty. She was leading a life full of promise and opportunity, one she had only ever fantasized of. She realized that the biggest change of all had occurred not just on the scale but also in her heart and spirit as she made her way to her car, prepared to face whatever was ahead. Her reunion with Dr. Now served as a potent reminder of her progress and a tribute to the enduring spirit of hope and the amazing strength of human resiliency. When the fluorescent lights stopped buzzing, the happy beat of a life well lived took its place.